Welcome to my channel. Today I talk about the revolutionary forces of fiat money. During the coronavirus crisis, at the latest, it should have become clear to those who observe with discernment that states, those in authority, and special interest groups trying to exploit states and their apparatuses for their own purposes do not always do what the voters want. Instead, they pursue their own agenda, which often is, to put it mildly, incompatible with the interests of the electorate. Even mainstream economics, the new political economy or public choice theory, acknowledges that states, rulers and their bureaucracies want to gain and maintain power, and the more power they can get, the better it is for them. Agreeing with this assessment raises legitimate concerns about the true mission of state institutions, particularly central banks. This insight may prove unsettling for many. After all, central banks are widely perceived as guardians of the currency, fighters of inflation, supporters of the economy, and particularly as saviors in crises. However, these are all misinterpretations of the highest order. Contrary to popular belief, central banks do not safeguard the value of money. In reality, they debase its worth. Rather than combating inflation, they cause it by relentlessly expanding the money supply. Far from smoothing the business cycle, their monetary policies disrupt it. Additionally, central banks do not solve financial and economic crises. They cause them in the first place. Central banks ensure one thing above all, that states become larger and more powerful at the expense of civil and entrepreneurial freedoms. The primary beneficiaries are a select few, such as big banking, big business, big pharma, big tech, while many others, such as small and medium-sized enterprises and, of course, the general population, are left behind. In essence, central banks and their monetary policies do not serve the common good. Instead, they primarily benefit some to the detriment of the many. A significant economic and social ill brought about by central banks and their creation of fiat money out of thin air is a form of debt servitude. Consumers and producers fall into the clutches of a debt cult. In a central banking fiat money regime, the need to go into debt, pay interest on the amount borrowed, and assume the risk of repayment is virtually inevitable for everyone seeking to advance economically or at least not fall behind in financial terms. In other words, the fiat money system of the central banks, once set into motion, literally makes people addicted to fiat money, paving the way towards economic and social disaster. Central banks and the fiat money wield a subversive effect true to the word's essence. The financial and economic crises they regularly cause prompt calls for more help from the state and more market interventions by central banks. Many economists loyal to and paid by the state stand ready at the right time to spread precisely this narrative to the public. The cause of the crisis is the failure of the free market, they say and write, and the salvation can only come through ever greater invention by the states and their central banks. This results in state intervention after state intervention, triggering an invention spiral. The destruction of the free market system, or what little remains of it today, is thus inevitable. Central banks' fiat money is poised to effectively dismantle the existing social order, destroying people's freedoms, ushering in state oppression. The pressing question arises, is this a genuine mistake, an unintended consequence, or perhaps the result of a deliberate plan? It is highly improbable that it is a genuine mistake. After all, the effects of central banking fiat money and the crises they cause have been known for over a century, extensively articulated primarily by representatives of the Austrian School of Economics. It seems far more plausible to assume that central banks and fiat money are intentionally employed, in the truest sense, to gradually undermine the free economic and social system, paving the way for a collectivist socialist structure. But who stands to benefit from such a transformation? Who would have the endurance to instigate a new wave of socialism or a variant thereof? Answering these questions does not necessitate resorting to conspiracy theories. Instead, the answer can be found in what can be described as a development of anti-enlightenment, if not outright mind poisoning. Namely, the widespread acceptance of coercion and violence as principles for interpersonal coexistence, coupled with a lack of awareness or disregard for the principle of voluntary action as a regulatory idea, as the German philosopher Immanuel Kant called it. One effect of the anti-enlightenment mentality is that the civilizations of the Western world could have contracted a malicious virus, namely embracing the idea of entrusting money, the universally accepted medium of exchange, to be the state's central banks and allowing them to supplant the once predominant gold and silver money with inflationary fiat currency. The resulting highly damaging consequences are scarcely acknowledged publicly, let alone openly discussed. The only way to break free from the clutches of central banks and their fiat money, along with all the accompanying societal ills they cause, particularly the erosion of economic and social freedoms, lies in intellectual enlightenment and the adoption of better ideas. Unfortunately, there is no certainty that this will happen proactively, that is, before the economic damage becomes unbearable and the existing societal order is overthrown and destroyed by central banks running the printing presses. What remains, however, is the hope that the growing grievances, not only economic impoverishment, but also unrest and conflict, will trigger a revolution in the way of thinking, paving the way for better ideas to break through and spark a renaissance of the Enlightenment. In any case, to safeguard and regain freedom and prosperity, it is imperative to tirelessly educate people about the disastrous upheaval instigated by the issuance of fiat money by central banks, thereby putting an end to this malevolent endeavor. Thank you very much for your attention and patience. If you liked the video, please like and share it, ring the bell and follow my channel.